Today, I'm joined by Jill Schulman. Jill is a Marine Corps veteran, leadership consultant, and author of The Bravery Effect. For 25 years, she's been developing leaders from the battlefield to the boardroom. She started her career leading a Marine Corps demolition team, then moved into pharmaceutical sales, and now she challenges people to step out of their comfort zones to reach greatness. She's worked with Fortune 100 companies, studied positive psychology at UPenn, and built a career helping people go from safe and stuck to bold and brave. Known for saying pain is weakness leaving the body, she's equal parts tough leader and science driven nerd, all by inspiring others to live bigger and braver lives. And I'm excited to have her on the show to learn from her expertise. So, Jill, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. And it's so funny as you were doing my intro and I talk about like pain as weakness leaving the body. That's
Yeah,
exactly why you decided to stay the Navy side because you're like, what are these Marines crazy?
you are crazy. And I spent enough time at Camp Pendleton to realize I didn't want to be a Marine. So,
Uh,
so
one time we were just the different services, right? We were deployed overseas in the Middle East. I think it was in Saudi Arabia. And as Marines, we're like sleeping in the dirt because that's just what we do. And then the Air Force, like our airmen, they were in the hotel. We could see the hotel. They're in the hotel, but it's the few, the proud. Like we embrace the suck. We love doing hard things.
absolutely, absolutely. And I've always loved my Marine friends, and I just never wanted to be one. So,
Yeah. Well,
so
now I like four-star hotels or better. I like downtown.
exactly.
So now I'm a princess.
Right, right, exactly. Well, it's great to have you on the show. It's great to meet you, and I'm excited to talk to you about, especially about the work that you're doing around bravery. But so let's get started off. We mentioned in the introduction you served as a Marine Corps officer. You built a successful corporate career. You study positive psychology. Now you're writing about the science of bravery. So
Mm.
why did you end up focusing on this of all topics?
I know it sounds like kind of a weird path. I hear you. I had the light bulb moment when I was studying positive psychology. So, positive psychology is the scientific study of how you elevate happiness and well-being in individuals, teams, organizations, or even, communities. So, as I was studying this science, I had an application to the business world. In fact, I did my capstone at the Wharton School of Business. I really want to go like, how does this elevating happiness and well-being impact results and happiness and well-being? So as I was researching this, I just realized, and this is maybe came from my background, is so many times it is fear that silently controls our behavior, like our fear that maybe prevents us for making the bold decision at work, the fear of having the difficult conversation, like so many times fear, or even the fear of what if I don't get the job, or maybe I don't feel ready yet. So there's so many times I realize that fear, sometimes silently, we don't even realize it, holds us back from having our best career, but also holds us back from really the highest levels of self-actualization, of really us reaching our potential. So I became obsessed with that. And what is the antidote to, fears holding you back? It's bravery. And there is a scientific study of bravery, and bravery isn't what you think it is. So if I go back to my Marine Corps days, I mean, back then I thought bravery was about bravado. It was Marines running into battle. By the way, I served in peacetime. So I trained a lot of times, like running into
Yeah.
battle, but it was in peacetime. So we think that bravery is soldiers in battle or firefighters running into a burning building, but bravery actually isn't in just those heroic moments, because those are really brave moments, but bravery is for everybody
Mm.
because everyone has fears, and fears hold us back sometimes at work, sometimes in our personal lives. And so I became so interested, and that's what ended up resulting in the book, which is a book about the science of bravery, teaching everyone that anyone can build their bravery. And one thing to add is I think you see the world sometimes through the eyes of your kids.
Mm.
John, do you have any kids?
I do. Two boys. Yeah.
And how old are they?
They're grown. They're in their 20s. Yeah.
They're in their 20s. So I have
Yeah.
it now an 18 and a 20-year-old. But if I even go back like, 4 or 5 years, you kind of see the world through their lenses. So the other motivation is I just see this trend where people think that the path to happiness, success, and well-being is to avoid discomfort and challenges
Mm.
and make everything super easy. right? Oh, what's a great life? I just want things handed. I don't want to work hard. I want challenges to be removed. And that is actually not supported by the science, by psychology. It's actually when you do hard things, and challenge yourself and you grow, that is what helps elevate your happiness and well-being. So I want to correct the misinformation out there for my two daughters and for all of the younger generation, and then also for organizations. So another motivator.
I love that. I love that. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show because I think it's such an important concept. I think if we want happiness, sometimes we have to do the hard things. And I think,
Exactly.
and I think that as we do hard things and we accomplish great things, that we know we can do harder things, and we can do more difficult things, and we can push ourselves. So I love that. I love what you talk about there because it's such an important aspect that I don't think it's talked about enough
Mm.
in people's careers, in the things they do in life. We kind of want the easy, but really where the happiness come from is doing the difficult,
Yeah.
doing the hard things. One thing you mentioned, which is really important, you mentioned that fear is a big problem in the workplace. And I would say in the 22 years I was in corporate, I came out of the military and I was kind of an observer of leadership. So I'd watch different leaders just as sort of like like a third party observer of these different
Mhm.
leaders. But I saw a lot of fear driving leadership behavior. So a lot of like fear of looking wrong, or fear of losing my job, fear of missing my bonus, and so I saw a lot of poor leadership because of fear. Fear was driving a lot of poor management and leadership behavior. And is that something you see as well, or is that something you talk about as well in the book?
I mean, yes, I mean, in the work environment, fear exists in so many places that literally holds back organizations from achieving like bigger outcomes. And so lots of common of examples is sometimes the fear of the unknown.
Mm,
Back in the military, we called it VUCA. I don't know if you guys did that in Navy, but like
we did.
volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. So in the business environment, especially now, there's so much uncertainty of what's going on. And so sometimes with uncertainty, leaders have a hard time making decisions. And the worst thing we can do is just wait and see. So one of the things that we know from the military that transfers over is we need to make the best decision to move, to advance based on the information. And we know that the plan will change as we get new intelligence coming in. So we need to, so the fear of the unknown is really big. Sometimes leaders have a fear of delegating, right?
Mm,
Right? So I don't want to delegate because I'm afraid to let go of the control. So we see that challenge in leaders. There's always a fear of having difficult conversations. That's a really hard one. Like I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Like I don't want to give the feedback, right? The fear of sometimes asking for help. One of the things that speeds up, results is collaboration, and collaboration requires vulnerability. Like, I'm kind of unsure on how to do this. I need some help, right? So sometimes in corporate America, you're like, oh, I'm brave. I don't need any help. I can do it by myself. Well, that's just stupid, right? We need to collaborate, work together. So there's so many examples of how fear holds back teams from performing at their best. And then,
yeah.
and they also makes them less happy in their jobs and less happy in life. So yeah, we could go on for forever, but fear definitely plagues the workplace.
Oh yeah, I definitely can see that, and I definitely saw that in my time in corporate as an entrepreneur. I've faced many fears. I faced, so I definitely see where it's a big part of how we have to operate in the
Yeah.
workplace. But so the question is, can you build bravery? Can you become more brave, or do you have to join the Marines to be able to get braver?
Well, that
Or
helps. That helps. Let me
but
do
I
a
mean,
little plug
how do
for everyone should
we should all, yeah.
strive to earn the title of United States Marine.
Well,
I mean, the
but
Marine Corps did make me braver, but let's look at the evidence. So remember, I
okay,
said I'm part academic nerd. So
right.
what we know about bravery is that bravery is a skill that can be built. It's not a
Mm,
trait that you're just born with. And it's like building a muscle. Maybe some people are just built because of their bloodline. They're a little bit more stocky and a little bit more muscle. And some people might be a little bit thinner. Some people might be born with kind of like a baseline level, but everyone can go into the gym and challenge their bodies to get stronger, right? And the bravery is the exact same way. So, if you wanted to build big biceps, you wouldn't go into the gym once and then try to pick up something really heavy like a I don't know, like a 45 pound, and dumbbell and say, look, see, I'm not strong. It doesn't work. No, you would go in and you would start with something that is heavy for you, that hurts a little, hopefully, and makes you sore the next day. And then Your muscle goes, wow, I need to make my muscle stronger, right? And over time you can lift more and more. So bravery is the same way. When we look at the neurology, we look at the changes in our brain plasticity. There's a couple parts of the brain that specifically change as a result of doing hard things. So if someone that's listening says like, I'm just not a brave person, I don't like getting uncomfortable, it's just not me. It's just like saying like, well, I just could never be strong. I'm just not an exerciser. Like, I mean, you can choose that, but we as human beings are born to strive to challenge our bodies and our minds. And when we don't challenge our bodies, we know what happens to our bodies. They become sick, they become weak, and susceptible to injury. The same thing happens with our psychology. When we're not challenging our minds and learning and growing, we become somewhat complacent, less happy. This is one of the reasons why we have the highest levels of depression and anxiety is because people
Mm.
aren't challenging themselves. So, a very long answer to your question, but yes, bravery is a skill that can be built little by little. And when people take time to develop that bravery muscle, it not only makes them more successful in their job, right? So they have a bigger impact, better results. But the most important part of it is what it does to the human being, right? As I realize I can do the hard thing because I put effort into it each day, then all of a sudden my self-confidence increases. Like,
Mm.
wow,
Yeah.
I did that, right? Then we see the self-efficacy increase, the self-esteem, self-love, and this is ultimately what builds that happiness is I want people to do hard things, not to make them unhappy. I want them to do hard things to make them happier.
I love that you bring that up because I think I think as you mentioned, part of our problem with depression, anxiety, and what have you is that we're not doing hard things, and the hard things we're not striving towards something that's very difficult that we overcome, and we feel a sense of accomplishment by doing it. But I think what you said too at the end, which is really important, is that as you do hard things, you can do harder things. And I often tell people that everything I've done in my civilian life has never been as difficult as what I did in the military. Like I have this high water mark in my life, like taking a submarine to periscope depth in the middle of a major winter storm off the east coast of Maine,
Wow.
was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And yet, so starting a business, that was easy, And so you have these. So when you say to yourself, I've overcome this difficult thing, I can overcome this thing, which seems to be a lot less difficult. So I think
Hmm.
you sort of ratchet yourself up to be able to do more things if you
Hmm.
do difficult things. So you have a new
Yeah.
data point. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. And then you just made me think of a point I really want to make too, which is fear depends on the person's experience. You said, okay, starting a business was easy. It depends on how people experience it. So fear is many times personal
Hmm.
and invisible. Someone that works for a big corporate job, like I'll even take me for example. So I went from the Marine Corps, then I went to the pharmaceutical industry and worked there. Worked for a also medical device company for a little bit. Big company, 401k, pension, stability, benefits, and all of that. So for you, you said starting a business was oh no problem. I actually had a different experience. I thought that was really scary because I grew up in the Midwest. You work hard, you save a little all the time. Like that is the way, that is the smart way. So I was very risk adverse.
Hmm.
So for each person, there's different domains of bravery. Someone might be just naturally very outgoing. They can go to a party, they can make friends with a tree. It's just no problem. They're not scared. Other people who are like me, like I can talk to anyone. But other people are naturally very introverted and it's really scary for them to go up to it. So that's another thing when, I work with clients is, and I've got a free bravery assessment that I, give to everyone too on my website. But I want people to really discover like what is it that you are scared of that is preventing you from achieving your self-concordant goals. So the goals that are important to you. So maybe in your career or your personal life. And we have to acknowledge what are those fears and we need to overcome them. And you mentioned, yeah, today's rates of depression and anxiety, because what people are used to doing is if they're scared of something, we slap a label of it. Many times we overuse the diagnosis of anxiety. And we just say, oh, I'm scared of this. It gives me anxiety, which gives us an excuse to run away from it.
Hmm.
If we keep running away from what we fear, we get weaker,
Hmm.
right? And it's like a downward spiral, right? So I teach people like, okay, if there's a fear, I want to teach you how to overcome that fear. Because when you overcome that fear, you become a changed person. It's like you're the hero in your own journey. Now, you don't have to do it alone. You have to start with like little steps. You can have people help and support you, but don't run away from your fear because it's just going to keep you miserable and keep you small. Like we need to run toward what we fear and overcome it. And it's a skill that people can learn.
Mm. I
Hmm.
love that. And those, listeners who've been on listening to the show for a while know that in my book, I talk about Run Towards the Fire, which was on a submarine that you couldn't call 911. So we were also the people that put out fires. So when there was a fire, we ran towards it, not away from it, because we were the only people that could put it out. So, I think that's what you just said is run towards the fear,
Yeah,
not
run
away from it.
toward the
Yeah.
challenge because it's only going to get worse. Like
Yeah.
ignoring a fear or a challenge doesn't make it go away. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
want to extinguish that as quickly as possible, right? And
Yeah.
get in the habit of, yeah, so fear is sometimes a signpost that something's important, you should run toward it. Now, I do have to have a caveat. This is my academic side coming out here. Like sometimes fear keeps us safe. So the reason why fear controls our behaviors because we are human beings and evolutionary biology wired us to experience fear and want to avoid things that we fear in order to survive. Think of the edge of a cliff. Like if that makes you nervous and you want to get away from it, well, that kept people alive. Or if you ran into a bear, you go the other way because you have the fear. But today's day and age, the fear that we experience is usually social fear, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of not being enough, the fear of failure and making mistakes. And those are the fears that you're not going to die. You're only going to learn. So those are the fears that usually it's something important that is in the way of your goal. And those are the fears that we should run toward. Yeah.
That's great. I love that. So in the book, you've talked about three steps to become more braver. You talk about a brave mindset, a brave action, and then brave relationships. Could you walk us through some of those?
Yeah, just kind of quickly, my research draws from cognitive psychology, which is mindset, like what we think impacts our actions, and then behavioral psychology, which is the second, which is brave action. Like, how do we actually take the step forward when we're scared? And then the third is based on social psychology. And if you look at the three together, like you really want to work on all three because they all help you become braver. So, I sometimes say when I'm speaking to audiences around the country, I say you got to start with a battle in your mind first. Like, what is the story that we're telling ourselves? So we talk about some cognitive reframing, techniques. I always state them in a way that makes it sound like someone's like really a badass if they do it, instead of saying, oh, we need to do positive thinking, because then half the people roll their eyes. But we really talk about like, what do warriors do? I call it a warrior mindset, right? When there's challenges, we run toward it, right? When we experience challenges, it makes us stronger. Instead of saying like I can't do it, we say I can't do it yet, which is Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset. So there's lots of things I do in the cognitive side. Those are a couple of examples. So that helps with us changing our mindset to take action. But if we just work in mindset and don't take action, we're still being a coward. So this mindset stuff helps. But the definition of bravery is taking action in the presence of fear toward a worthwhile or noble goal. So you're still going to feel scared. So the mental reframing helps a little, but you're still going to be scared. So that is about taking a step forward before the fear goes away. So we talk about ways to be able to do that, like telling people that if you tend to say, I'm just waiting for the right time, I don't feel confident yet, those hesitations is that you're uncomfortable taking action in the presence of fear. So I, teach people you need to move sooner. So, I mean, bravery is defined as being scared and doing it anyway, because it's the right thing to advance you toward your goals. Like you want to be prepared, but don't wait until all of the discomfort goes away, because then it's not bravery.
Mm,
So we give them some techniques on how to do that. So the taking the step. And then the last one, and these all support each other, is based on surrounding yourself with a brave tribe.
mm,
So, what is the goal that you've set that's really important to you, that really matters? And you've got the fear that's kind of holding you back. If you surround yourself with people that have gone down the road that you want to go down, that have accomplished what you want to accomplish, and you can develop a relationship with them, then that makes you feel like more comfortable. Like, oh, so you've gone mountain climbing on this mountain a bunch of times. Can you give me advice on the best way to go? Will you come with like when you surround yourself with people who have done the hard thing, your your fear actually reduces because those people make you feel more comfortable. And then also when you want to tap out, those are the people that are going to say, no, get up and keep going. They're going to encourage you, put courage into you. So we really have to look at the environment that we're creating, the people we surround ourselves with. So I advise my clients, my audiences, is I want you to be strategic in who you surround yourself with and make sure you're curating or selecting the right people to listen to give you the advice. Because there's always ups and downs when trying to accomplish a goal. On the ups, you don't need anyone. On the downs, that's where you need that brave tribe so that when you encounter the challenge, you don't give up. You just need people that say, like, oh, that happened to me too. Oh, you're going to be fine,
Right.
right? And then you hear that and you're like, oh, okay, I will be fine. So those are how the three things really work together. The cognitive, like the mindset and the social surrounding yourself, they are there just to support the action because bravery is taking action in the presence of fear. So there's three different, steps that I teach, but it's these two are to support the brave action. Just make sure you
Yeah.
take the step.
I love that you say that because I think a lot of people think that they're taking action when they're thinking about an issue or they're writing a plan or they're thinking about what email they're going to send. Uh, but it's not action, it's sort of like delaying action. I think, and one of the things I talk about too is sometimes we don't know how things are going to work out. And, I always encourage people, I use the analogy of a ship. You can't steer a ship unless it's moving, right? You can move the rudder all you want on a stationary ship. It's not going to go anywhere. You got to get the ship moving first, when then you can make the adjustments. So I think the idea of action is to take that first step, and
Yeah.
then you can adjust if you need to, right? As you learn the feedback that you get from making that first step, you can make adjustments, but you're not going to get anywhere by just
Yeah.
moving your rudder back and forth. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, you are what you consistently do. So this is
Mm-hmm.
about having the discipline to take action every day toward your goal when it's comfortable or easy and when it's not, right? So I just wrote an article in Psychology Today last week, and I talked about self-care is discipline, not indulgence. So, you hear a lot about self-care. Oh, just like take the day off, have a bubble bath, drink champagne, eat chocolate. Like that is not self-care. That is self-sabotage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Self-care is keeping promises to yourself that you're going to take action on the thing that's important to you. And the little psychology trick I love to share with my audiences is, when you're making decisions on taking that action, right? You got to take that step. Ask yourself this question because it's a really great motivator. What does my future self, maybe my 6 p.m. self today, what does my future self want me to do in this moment? Take the action or not? That's a really good, have a conversation with your future self because your future self is going to say, get the thing done. Get the thing done. It's never going to say, oh, just sleep in, press snooze. No, it's going to say, get up and keep your promise to yourself. And that's what builds self-esteem, and self-respect and pride. Yeah, so it's sometimes not fun, but even the concept of motivation is overrated. Some people are like, well, I'm just going to wait until I feel like it. Well, sometimes you've got to do difficult things to have the impact that you want to have in the world, right? So you've just got to take action even when you don't feel like it, right? And then when you get the thing done in the morning that you were kind of dreading doing, you actually get the great feeling of accomplishment. You actually get a dopamine hit after. So you're doing the hard thing in the short term to feel great right afterwards and then to feel proud of yourself later. So it's just, do you want to, if you want the long-term happiness, do the hard thing. Hmm.
In my experience too, I think when you do the hard thing, it always seems like it's not as hard. And when you finish it, it wasn't as hard as you thought it was. Like you
So
build it
true.
up in your mind to be all the things that could go wrong. And 9 times out of 10, those things never go wrong.
Exactly
Right.
right.
And everything works out. And you're like, well, that was a lot easier than I expected. I built it up bigger in my mind than it actually was.
Yeah. And that's what we know based on research too. Like 85% of all the things we say might go wrong just are not true. It's all these stories that we tell ourselves
Yeah.
to try to keep us safe, right? So, but there's ways that we can change our way of thinking. To celebrate my book launch, like I did the one thing I said I would never do in life, which is jump out of an airplane. And I'm
Oh
like, I'm
boy.
so scared of it. So I'm like, okay, if I'm supposedly the expert on bravery, like, I should probably jump out of a plane. So I did that on launch day. And, I was doing all the mental reframing. Like on the way down there, I'm like, I'm excited. I'm feeling the nerves, but this is just excitement. And everything was great with my mental reframing and really like embracing it. I had other people with me until they opened up that darn door. And then it was just sheer terror. So they opened up the door and I was out within like 30 seconds. Thank God, because I didn't want to think about it anymore. Um, and then we jumped, and it was absolutely terrifying for about 2 seconds. And then as soon as you feel the resistance of it, it was actually so calm and beautiful. So, like, I came down and I'm like, okay, that was scary, but that wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Hmm.
I want to do that again. So, it's just my story of saying, like, exactly what you said is true. Like, when you just, Albert Bandura, who did all the research on self-efficacy, says the only way you build confidence is by action, taking steps. And that gives you evidence that you can do the hard thing. So, his evidence is like, I'm not going to give you pep talks. I'm going to give you steps. Like, take a step, take a step, take a step. And that's what elevates our confidence. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I mean, can we do this with our employees? Can we help our employees to become more brave? If as we work to become more brave ourselves, can we make our employees, our organization, our culture, if you will, if we're a small company or a department, can we make that group more brave?
Yeah, we absolutely, it's definitely possible. And that's exactly what I do for organizations is help them develop this as part of their culture, right? And train people on how to be brave. Because the way we think, our mindset impacts our behavior. So what we do in companies, because I spent the last 25 years either in corporate America leading or then supporting corporate America, mainly Fortune 100 companies, is I know we train them on the skill. Like if you're an accountant, here's how to do the accounting. If you're in sales, here's how to sell. But the one thing that impacts our ability to demonstrate like the best skills is sometimes like our mindset. So bringing a little bit of the psychology of peak performance, teaching people to be brave, like it has such a huge downstream. So if you go upstream a little bit to like mindset, right, and teach some of these skills, you know, yes, you absolutely can teach people to be brave and it elevates their performance. It definitely impacts the bottom line. But the best part of it is what it does to the employees and their well-being and their thriving. So like the quote I sometimes use is results matter. People thriving matters more, and bravery is the thing that bridges the gap. Because we don't like sometimes we think of this as leaders, like, oh, if we want to make our people happy, let's just lower the expectations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's give them more time off. And like, can we be honest here? Like, that's not the real, we can't just keep lowering expectations to make them happy. Let's teach them how to be brave so they can accomplish more, have a bigger impact, and then feel great about it.
Yeah.
So that's what I help organizations do.
Yeah, I know because I think about it sometimes. Like if you have a really elite team, right? Like an Olympic team, you're trying to make an Olympic team. People are going to want to be on that team because it's elite and it's hard. Like
Mhm.
and so people are motivated by going into something that's elite and hard, not something that's easy, right? So if your
Mhm.
company or what you're trying to do is easy, right? I don't know that you attract the best and the brightest.
That's,
Maybe it has to be hard. Maybe you have to be doing things that are difficult. Maybe you have to be elite and
yeah,
uh and hold your
totally.
people accountable to results, you know?
Yeah, and that's where you want to create that culture because remember we talked about social psychology, right?
Mhm.
Like bravery is contagious. Like that high accountability standards is contagious. So you want that baked into your culture, right? And then I mean I could go off for a long time, but just quickly like, sometimes companies make a mistake and they just say, "Oh, like here's our mission, vision, and values. This is our culture." And it's on the website, maybe it's even painted on the walls of the building somewhere. But, leaders really need to bring the culture to life and to develop expectations of here's the results I need you to achieve. Here is the way of behaving that's part of our culture. And you're going to be evaluated on both, right? We care about results, we care about how we behave. And when you do those two things together, then the organization is unstoppable. But it becomes an expectation that everyone, it's part of their job, is to live the culture. That's where you really see things really click is when companies take culture And part of culture is bravery or courage. That's really when you see the results accelerate.
That's fantastic. Well, really, I feel like we just scratched the surface on bravery,
We could
but
talk
we've
forever.
hit a lot of different things that are really important for us as leaders. What final message would you like to leave with our listeners today?
Ah, gosh, I have so many. I would just say, I'm gonna leave them with one new little thing. And it's usually the favorite thing that people take away from my keynote is there's one thing that you can do to become braver, and it's what I call attack the day. This is the Marine telling you attack the day. So each day, develop your battle plan of how you will attack each day. Don't ease into each day. What do you think Marines do in the morning? Do you think we just, get up in the morning and kind of like yawn and get some coffee and go like, I don't know, what should we do? Do the easy stuff first? No. You attack your day by doing the hardest things, but the most important things first, because we have the highest level of psychological resources to get those things done in the beginning. And if you get in a habit of attacking your day, then you will start building this habit. And then if you think about that attack the day, then you also have to think about like, what do I need to do the night before in order to be well rested in the right mindset to be able to attack the day? So just that's one little habit, and it's one thing I've taught my girls. We call it slay the day, but that's just so that teenage girls like, think it sounds cooler. But I mean, that's really the secret. Like that, it's all about action. So slay the day or attack the day is just one little practical tip.
Attack the day, do the hard things first.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And you listeners, you know we've talked about that before. I have the home gym. I'm in the weight room every morning, and I do hard things before I do anything else. And I think that's
Yep.
really important. So, very good. Attack the day. Such a great, powerful message to wrap up this discussion on bravery. Jill, this has been fantastic. How can our listeners find out more about you, the work you do, and this new book?
Oh, well, thank you. Probably the best place to go if people want to learn more, take a free bravery assessment. I got all kinds of freebies like, free discussion guide, a free bravery blueprint, so they can apply it right away is on my website. So it's just jillschulman.com. So that's an easy way to go. I'm also super active on LinkedIn and I'm becoming brave myself to get on all the other platforms. I'm getting pushed out of my comfort zone. So if people follow me on LinkedIn, I make a commitment to give 5 little like evidence-based suggestions on how to build the bravery muscle because sometimes that helps us. I also write in Psychology Today and Forbes, so please like, subscribe or follow me on those publications, but I think that wraps it up. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I do follow you on LinkedIn, and you do post a lot of really interesting and important stuff on bravery. So I highly encourage it. Links are in the show notes below. Yeah, go on Jill's website, hook up with her on LinkedIn, and you're going to get a lot of good information. And don't forget to get the book. It's The Bravery Effect. And if you want to learn more about bravery, Jill's the expert. So the reason why she's here is she's the expert. And one of the things she mentioned, which is really important, there's a lot of free assessments and free things on the website. So go there, do the free assessment. We like free things on this podcast. So
Y'all
go
do.
ahead. I'm going to have the links in the show notes, but go ahead, take that assessment and see how brave you really are, or how brave you could be.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be really important. So go get that book, The Bravery Effect, and then link up with Jill on these links below. Jill, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for teaching us about bravery, and thank you for the work that you're doing in this field.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I had a blast.
Yeah, I did as well. Thank you. Well, that is it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Reddy saying take care and lead well.